patience.
Okay.
So in today's society, right? With knowing all of the Hebrew Israelite knowledge or whatever, and us being the first black first person, the black man was the first person on earth, whatever.
Yeah.
How does that help the black community in today's society? Like how would it help us today?
I tell you, no question, without even having to think on it for too long. Anytime a people as a whole are devoid of knowledge of self, even if it's an individual, that puts them in not only a dangerous state, that puts them in a weakened state. Because now you can be lied to about who you are. And if you're able to be lied to about who you are, you could be made to do things that are counterproductive with respect to who you are. And the enemy who wants to see you destroyed, all they got to do is stand back and watch you do their work for them because you don't know who you are. Now, let's look at the flip side of that. If you know who you really are, you know the richness of your history. You know that you are the descendants of the people who gave the very blueprint for this thing referred to as civilization. What's one of the first things you see when you go to Washington, D.C.? Do you know? You think you don't answer that question?
I've never been to Washington
Okay,
D.C.
that's fair. That's fair. White House, but be at the White House, that comes under architectural design. But what I wanted you to say was what America refers to as the Washington Monument. Yo, that's no Washington Monument. That's what they call it. That is an obelisk. An obelisk comes from Egypt. An obelisk in Egypt was made to be a portal for the spirit of Osiris to come up from the underground and permeate the land because he was the chief god of black magic, which served as a serious force in ancient Egypt, which they believed to be their source of power. Now, there are those that say, but the ancient Egyptians weren't in black. Secular science has their haplogroup studies, and this shows that they were Mediterranean, a split between Middle Eastern and Mediterranean. Well, guess what? I don't care if it's Antarctica. No matter where you go on this rock called Earth, no matter where you go on God's blue and green planet called Earth, you will come to find that the original inhabitants of any land, even Europe was first inhabited by the Negrito. That name Negrito means little Negro. That's what that name literally means. And the first people to inhabit Europe were the Negrito. So no matter where it is on the
So
planet, it could be
the first
Antarctica.
people that have it in Europe was the little niggas.
Yeah, exactly. It could be Antarctica. It could be the land down under with the Aboriginals. Listen to that name. Ab, as in to inhabit, original. Original inhabitants. That's essentially what that terminology, as we refer to them, means about them as a people. Okay, so let me get to my ultimate point. How can this help blacks now? And I've heard this said before. Yo, man, what that gonna do for me now, man? I'm out here in these streets. I got to do it. I got to do it for mine, man. These niggas trying to. I'm just gonna keep it real with you. I'm gonna use the language that we know. The black man is out there using, not just him. Hey, listen, understand. That's the other thing. This is what Pac meant when he said, "I don't know why America trying to act like they don't understand thug life. America is thug life. There ain't shit going on, okay?" And I'm slow to use profanity because, like I said, I'm a Christian. But let's just keep it. Ain't shit going on out there in them streets that the American government can't make look like child's play. What a gang can do in a month in terms of laying down bodies, this nation known as America can do 1,000 times over with the press of one button. And they do it on a regular basis. So when it comes to ganking somebody else's shit, when it comes to just taking some shit by force, all that is rooted in the very nature of American history. This is how knowledge of self can help the black man today. When you have a sound knowledge of the richness of your history, there are certain things you won't debase yourself to. So when the white boy, when Caucasian people, and I don't want to make it sound like I hate them as a people because I don't understand some of evil. Evil knows no prejudice of skin color. Evil will make itself the resident of anyone who will allow their spirit to take up, to allow it to dwell in them. Anyone that will allow evil to use them as its vehicle, evil will use them as its vehicle. Okay. So no matter who you are, somebody can do some ill shit. So you can find someone with good intent from any color group, right? But in terms of what they've done as a whole with the American brand of oppression against blacks, what they stand for as a people, I'm not talking about individuals, I'm talking about a system now. It's very nefarious. But if you have a richness of knowledge of your history, then the things that you see a lot of blacks doing as a result of what was done to them in this country, they won't do because they'll be too uplifted in their spirit. They'll be too uplifted in themselves. If somebody asked you to do something that you feel like is beneath you, right? What's the first thing you're going to say to them in response? You're going to say, I'm not doing that. That's beneath me, right? I'm not doing no shit like that. You crazy? I'll spend every minute of every second of every hour, every day, if I have to, finding the correct means of reaching my goals before I debase myself to doing this, thus, or so. There were well over 50 million Black Africans murdered in transport alone in the peculiar institution. All the peculiar institution means is the American brand of slavery. There were well over 50 million in the transatlantic slave trade murdered between being brought from Africa to America, dumped, whether they were dumped in the ocean to avoid the Coast Guard, and all that was a scam too. I'll get into that, but I gotta shorten this so that we know I could be here with you for the next day talking about this. Okay? Because it'll just keep branching off into other. It's like a tree with many branches. It'll just keep branching off. So
That's cool.
I'm
That's
gonna give you
cool.
I'm gonna give you a crash course real quick. There was well over 50 million murdered in transport. If you know this, and you have a love for self, and by way of having a love for self and your people, you're going to say, I'm not going to get into gangland activity and start killing my own people. Hell, those people that oppose us, whose skin color is the polar opposite of ours, they did enough of that on their own. I'm not going to help them killing my own people. Something else. They believe in a race war. A lot of blacks don't know this shit. No, I know a lot of blacks like, I got a white friend. They mad cool, cool. I ain't mad at you. I think the whites do me a solid. I've had white friends and all that. We're not talking about an individual right now. We're talking about those who are in the seats of power. We're talking about those who are walking the halls of, like you just said, the White House, those who are in that Capitol. We're talking about those who are in that Pentagon, what they have planned, what's going on in their hearts and in their minds. Quite frankly, what your white friend thinks about next door, I'm not saying this to demean anybody, that don't mean squat because they're not in power. They're not in the position you need to be to act on anything that's going on in their heart. If anything, let's say they weren't your friend, they were a stone cold racist, and they resented the fact that they were living next to a black person. Even still, at best, all they can do is be the vice of those whites who are in power. So I say all that again to say this. When you know and have a sound knowledge of the things that I'm kind of just touching and dabbing real quick, when you do get a record deal, you're gonna say to yourself, okay, I'm not gonna talk like that. I'm not gonna be calling my black woman a bitch, okay? And I'm gonna freeze up on some of that calling myself. And listen, before I say this, I got songs right now where I say, I'm that nigga that do this, and I'm that nigga that do that, right? For a long time, I didn't think about it. Just like Tupac, I got my acronyms for. When I call myself a nigga, I'm not saying it in the everyday mundane sense. That is an acronym for new, imperial, glorious, global authority. In other words, the black man restored to his initial place of dominance. When you read about the Pharaoh in the book of Exodus that God delivered the Jews from, that was Hamitic on Semitic bondage. That was one group of black people coming against another group of black people. How do I know this? Egyptians are Hamites. They come from Ham. Ham was a black man. Jews are Semitics. What do they call hatred against Jews? They call it anti-Semitism, right? You know why they call it that? Because Jews are known as Semitic people. You know why they're called Semitic people? Because they're the descendants of Shem. Well, guess who Shem's brother was? Ham. And it's from Ham that we get Egyptians. Now, guess what? You got a brother? Do you? You do?
I had a couple.
Okay, he had a couple. Right. They black like you, right?
I'm
Okay.
black, white. I'm black, white, Indian, Spanish. Got a lot going
All
on.
right. Well, let me say it to you like this. You got a black man and a black woman, right? They have kids, right? Two of them going to be progenitors, each of their own separate prospective nations. Even though they did that because they're brothers, is one going to be black and the other going to be white? Or are they both going to be black like they black mother and father?
Yeah, you black. So let me ask you another question. Let me ask you another question. All right. Like certain things could be confirmation bias. You feel me?
Okay.
Like for example, if I believe in God, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I never even heard of a Bible. But right, but like I just grew up and I just like I see trees and I see like fucking animals having babies. And I'm like, dang, it has to be a higher power, right?
Yeah.
And then I see a Bible and I read the Bible. So that would be confirmation bias, right? But I already believe this, whether it's right or wrong. And then I pick up a Bible that another man wrote. That I don't know whether it's, you know what I'm saying? So that's a confirmation bias. So, all right. So and I also believe that the black man was the first people. Like it's like logically proven. Like it's no way to go around it. You know what I'm saying? So like we fought like the white man for the slave trade. You know what I mean? The Arabic slave trade. They get they. I mean all these different slave trades because it was more than just the black slave trade. We was not the only slave trade. In fact, the point that I'm leading to is that black people actually started slavery because we were the first people and slavery was a thing. It's even in the Bible. And if we could atone that most of those people were black, then we would have to say that they started it.
Right.
Not only did they start it, but they taught it. Not only did they teach it,
Okay.
but eventually what religion did was this. So now you got different religions that were taught slavery
Mm-hmm.
as a good thing. And then you got some religions that they didn't like Christianity.
Right.
So the Moors per se, and you could even look this up if you don't believe me, the Moors killed Christians just
I
for
know.
being Christian,
I know.
white, black, whatever. You was
I
Christian,
know.
they killed you.
I know.
The Moors also had black people as slaves.
I'm fully aware.
This in turn bred what we believe to be our slave trade.
Right.
So why do we only blame white people for that?
I'll tell you what. Precisely. Here in America, this thing that is taking place, the American slavery, like you said, it's not the first brand, and it's a duplication of something that was started and founded in nature in its presentation, Black empires, be it going all the way back to King Nimrod himself, with those that he put to forced labor in the name of building the Tower of Babel, Uruk, Akkad, and all the nations that we read about that were a part of his empire that served as the world's first global empire known to the world. Right. So certainly in terms of slavery, just as a thing, just as an institution and a style of oppression against a group of people at the hands of another group of people who feel like, for whatever reason, they have, whether it's a divine right or military right, to impose this upon them. Here's where white people take heavy charge. What Pharaoh did to the Hebrews in Egypt, he made it plain when Moses came to him and said, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has told me to command you to let my people go. He said, "Command, I am no one commands me. And this God, in whose name you come to me, demanding that I let your people go, I know not." He made it plain. I do not know that
Yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah. And then
Not do I
yeah,
let your people go.
I know about the story. I know.
Now here's okay, good. Here's where whites take a hard hit. They unlike They, unlike the Assyrians after Pharaoh, they, unlike the Babylonians after Pharaoh, they, unlike the Persians after Pharaoh, Greece or Rome, all nations founded in black culture, because even the Romans got their culture from a people known as the Etruscans, which were some, along with the Negrito, some of the first inhabitants of that area of Europe. They claimed to know the one true and living God while they were doing this thing. Here, that's the
But so did the Moors.
They claim to know the one true living God, and that's why descendants of the Moors were allowed to be taken by this people into the American brand of bondage because they lost their covering with the one true living God for believing in other gods other than just him, and for doing that very thing to another that he had delivered them from in Egypt. And that's precisely why they lost their covering. Pharaoh fell the way that he fell
So
because
okay, so you agreeing? So what I asked was why do we blame white people and not black people? So what you just did was pretty much you just blamed them. You said that's why this happened to them. So we here. I understand that.
mhm. Now, and here's the other reason why we blame white people here in America. Pharaoh just wanted the labor. He wanted the labor. He didn't want their history. He didn't want their names. He didn't want their character. Yeah, wherever there's slavery, they're gonna make the concubine, the women of the people that they're enslaving, their concubines. That happens. So I won't say that he didn't want their women. Yeah, Egyptian men took Hebrew women for their concubines, even though they're married and all that. Mass rape went on in this American brand of slavery, right? Yeah, that happened in Egypt too, but it was packaged different. See, here in America, they don't just want the labor, they want your history, they want your name. Along with wanting your name, they want to defame your name and character on a global scale. They want to turn all other peoples who come to America against you because they themselves don't have the same richness of history. So while they're seeking to oppress you, they have to deny the fact that the very thing that they're doing to you, they're taking the cues from those from whom you descend to do it to you. In other words, they're using your own system against you. They're learning, they're taking what they learned from Pharaoh, who was a black man,
That's
and
what
doing it against his descendants right here in
that's
America.
what I'm saying.
And they're
Yeah.
lying about it. But see, here's where they take the fall. Here's what's so. And see, you ever notice something about American slavery? The slavery in Egypt, it was just called slavery, right? This thing here in America, it's not just called slavery. It's called the peculiar institution because they did it like no one before them ever did it, and that's not a feather in their hat. Although they did it in a way that was masterfully executed because Satan himself was in their ear and doing this to them. But here's but
But the that's like our slave trade here wasn't even the worst slave trade. You know what I'm saying? I guess the point
yeah,
that I'm trying to make is like if
no, there was no slave
if
trade
if you
Egypt.
got one person right that he just like he just raping bitches and sending them home. Like you know what I mean? Like he just grab a bitch, rape her, and then send her about her way, right? And then you got another dude that like he grab him, rape him, beat him, take a hot fork, brand his name on him, fucking take a social security card. She ain't got no identity and this and all. It's
Okay,
no different. Even though one person did a little bit more, like or did it in another way, it's no different, bro.
this what makes you think this brand here in America of slavery hasn't been the worst known in human history? That's said by all the black scholars. That's said by whites and blacks alike.
That's because it's a confirmation bias. If you look at history, the Arabic slave trade was the worst one, bro.
In what regard? How so?
In every regard.
Give me some details.
Okay, for one, more people got killed. When it was over, even though I feel like we deserve reparations. My grandmother last name was Jefferson. I think we deserve reparations. I say we, you know what I'm saying? But they were still given 40 acres in the mule. You know what I'm
They,
saying?
they didn't keep
The,
that.
they kind of didn't have a choice because the black people didn't have no knowledge. They didn't have nothing. They had to go back. They had to go back and work for their slave owners. The Arabic slave trade didn't
So
get shit but
because
death.
they knowledge they had the right to take their land that belonged to them. They got right to take stuff from them just because they don't have no knowledge. Do what
No, no, no,
do
no,
white people get
no,
shit?
no, 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 no. What I'm saying is, at least, at least, Arabics didn't get shit.
But Arabics colluded with the Caucasian in coming to Africa looking for slaves, and they are in collusion with whites on a global scale to defame the name and character and to erase the history of who the black man really is for the sole purpose of making all other nations look at him in a way that is less than who he really is to justify what they've done. No other race did that. That's what makes
Africans help white people catch Africans, right?
they gave them the right to hunt slaves. And that's why they're taking the kind of hit that they're taking right now. And do you realize that of all the people that God told to go out and build a new nation, when he scattered them off from Shinar or Babel, those that are now referred to as white people, they're the only people who didn't go out and build that new nation. So when they came out of the caves of the Caucasus Mountains, they went to every land that was built up by the black man looking for stuff for free. And that's why wherever they went, they took murder, rape, and they took the will to make slaves of people along with them. And that's what makes their charge more than any other group of people the most serious because
You
not
can't say
only did
that,
they,
man.
hmm?
You can't say that, man. It's all the same.
No, you see, you're missing the element of one. They're claiming to know the one true living God while they're doing this. The black man wasn't doing that. He had a pantheon of gods. That's hypocrisy and the charge. See, the black man just got slavery. Whites got slavery and the hypocrisy. That's where this shit. That's where their thing takes a harder fall. That's where I'm coming from. Now, if you don't, if that's not a serious charge,
I mean, if your child get kidnapped, right, and your child get found around the corner, right?
yeah.
My child get kidnapped and get found a year later across the world. Of course, my situation is more tragic because it happened. I found my child a year later, but bro, they both got kidnapped. That's still a tragedy. Both children gonna remember that shit forever. We both gonna remember that shit forever. It's no
Yeah,
different.
but what if the other kid comes back home with the same mindset that he left with? He's just been delivered from the bondage. But the other kid that comes home from the bondage, their entire perception has been
Oh,
changed.
come on now. You can't believe that.
They've
You
been
can't
given a
believe
new
that.
doctrine
Hey,
that
it
will
ain't
teach.
nobody in the world that has ever been kept as a slave delivered or right in their head, bro. You got kept as a slave, man. You ever been to jail?
No, I've never been to jail. Yo, do you see any other group of people doing to themselves what black people are doing to themselves in America?
First,
Name them.
all over Africa, it's only like small good parts. Like everywhere else is still Africa. They eat each other and all kind of shit. They still go and war with other tribes. Only in America is niggas beefing over dumb shit. That's it.
Okay, you just said it.
That's
You
it.
don't see no other people going at it with themselves like that. Where do you think that's coming from? That's
I
some
mean,
self
well,
hatred.
hatred is born, but hatred is taught when you're born. So like, we have black on black crime here,
Yo,
like,
oh man,
cause like,
every other group of people in this country, they stick together. There's a little Italy, there's a little China, there's a little Havana, there's a little every other group of people, a duplication of what's going on in their homeland here in America. The black man don't
okay, so
have
you
that.
got majorities. You
I
got
don't have that.
majorities. You got majorities. So you got Chinese people that don't like other Chinese people
Yeah, but
and don't like
they
Japanese
didn't lay
people.
the foundation. Blacks did. They didn't.
What
Because
you
you
mean?
can't compare them to us.
What
They
you mean?
haven't been through what we've been through.
Everybody been through something. Now I feel you though. I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah. See,
Everywhere the Aboriginals have been taken away from they culture, except places like Australia where it's still Aboriginals. Um, the Philippines, they still got the Aboriginals. Uh, China, Japan, they
you
still got
you
the
don't really
Aboriginals.
you don't really you don't understand the full effect of why they call it the peculiar institution, do you?
I feel like it's a confirmation bias.
In what way?
See, we been taught this here. We like in school or wherever we have
Okay,
Black
okay,
History Month.
all right.
They not
Let me ask
teaching
you
you
something.
about. Hear me out real quick. They not teaching you about nobody else slave trade. They only teaching you about Black History Month. So you don't know about what like, you gotta go dig into that.
If that's the
That's why
case,
in America, like we again, it's a confirmation bias. So when we hear about slavery, we Black people. So it's like, oh shit, we were slaves for 400 years. When you go to the Jews, they don't give a fuck about that. What do they care about? The Holocaust. Do you care about the Holocaust? No. You understand? It's a confirmation bias.
and guess what? They got Holocaust museums. They were reparated for that Holocaust. America came to their aid. Other nations came to their aid. And guess what? They have something referred to as the Anti Defamation League, which is the same entity that doesn't even want the original Jew saying that he's a Jew. And here's the other thing about what you just mentioned. If what you're saying, if what we're talking about is a mere confirmation bias, and blacks have no reason to have a gripe against the white American system, aside from the gripe that any other people have against the white American system. Why does this current administration want to strike from the schools knowledge about what happened to black people? Because they know if they know what happened, they're going to want
Yeah.
an apology. An apology is going to lead to they want reparations, and reparations and marching for it, and all facets of government getting in line with actually moving and mobilizing to pay reparations. They know that's going to lead to blacks actually receiving their reparations, and they don't want that. And that's why they don't want it
Uh,
taught in the schools anymore.
so
And if it's not unique to black people, how come they're not trying to strike the history of every other people from the school books in American schools? They only want to do that to black history because they don't owe any other people the way they owe black people. And if you don't believe it, just say you got some more research to do.
I actually agree with you on that one. So
What are we talking about then?
the Holocaust, the Holocaust was not worse than our situation. In fact, it was Black people that was affected in the Holocaust too that didn't get no Holocaust survivor money and no reparations for that. So the Black people, we got fucked over in that too. You know what I'm saying?
Do you know?
What
Do you
what,
know a white skin? Do you know?
hold on real quick. What I was getting to with that is that like in America, and this is why Chinese and Spanish Indians are not looking for reparations. At least
Yeah. Oh,
we had
you
like
know,
listen,
Indians and
because
Spanish got the same
what you
roots.
what you what you what you saying that they tamper with people's history. Do you're not realizing where they at least gave us bits and pieces of it that our leaders. No,
They didn't give us
hear
nothing.
me.
Our people marched
Don't,
for
don't
that.
hear me, bro. Listen. We had leaders like, for example, the Moors are Israelites, are still Israelites today. The Israelites were never slaves. The Israelites were slave owners.
What you think the Book of Exodus is about?
I'm talking about while while we had slaves in America with Abraham Lincoln, Emancipation Proclamation type shit. The Israelites were slave owners right down south with them. They still have Israelite temples and Moorish temples where they show it. You
And
understand?
guess what?
Hear me out. It's because of that the Black culture still kept history. I'm a Cherokee Indian. Go on any reservation. They don't have no history, bro. No history. This is their Aboriginal country. They don't have no history. The Mayans, the Spanish people, they don't have, bro. Besides them Mayan temples that they can't take away because it's literally down in South America, they have no history. You
There's no.
understand what I'm saying? So black people, because we're raised and our ancestors, we our ancestors was the one in slavery. It's a confirmation by, oh, we were dead wrong. We were motherfucker, everybody was dead wrong. You know what I'm saying? And we all were. The white people fucked us all up. But before we blame the white man for this, we gotta blame who taught them how to do it. The Moors. They taught them how to do it.
Well, the Egyptians did it before the Moors. That's irrelevant when it comes to this American brand of slavery. And guess what? Of all those people that went through slavery, the brand that whites learned from, they were delivered by God some way, shape it. They came to a greater place of deliverance. The Israels out of Egypt, the Israels out of Assyrian bondage. God restored them after all those institutions of slavery. The a brand of slavery that was imposed upon the Israelites by the Babylonians, by the Persians, by Greece, by Rome. God delivered them. That's biblical, and
Yeah,
that's
that's that.
supported by secular science
It's in the
too,
Bible. It's biblical.
and it's supported by secular science. All right, and these
I
were
wouldn't
all
say
made.
that.
Huh?
I wouldn't say science. Science don't support God.
There's a lot of things confirmed by secular science that are told to the man, to people, humankind, by God Almighty. Like the fact that all people come from three men, Shem, Ham, or Japheth. They don't want you to know that. They're the only people that don't want you to know that. There's not been a group of people in human history that hasn't at some point in time risen to global dominance. Why are they the only people that now that they're having their chance to have power on the world stage, why are they the only people who want to lie about human history? They're the only people that did that.
What you mean?
Ask me that. I mean, answer me that. What
Well,
I
no,
mean is this:
what you mean? You gotta clarify what you mean. I don't.
of all nations, okay, and for one thing, all people come out of black anyway. But once this five color group breakdown took place to where now we have the black man, the brown man, the red man, yellow man, white man. Now that we have that, right? Even though they all came out of black people, why once white people, after the black, after the brown, after the red, after the yellow, now whites? Why, when they come to power on the world stage, do they have this undying desire to deceive all peoples of the world about the fact that all people descend from black people? Why do they want to lie about that? They're the only people that ever did that. You know why they're the only people that ever
I mean,
did that? Do you know
I
why
don't got no
they're the
answer
only
to
people
that.
that
I
ever
don't
did
really.
that? Huh?
I don't
You
got no
know,
answer to that. I don't.
I'll tell you why they don't people that ever did that. Because they're the only people that don't have a rich history. They're the only people that
I mean,
don't have
I got common sense. I got common sense. So if the world was once one fucking continent and a black man
and be.
has melanin and white people have no melanin and you
No,
need
they
melanin
got melanin. They
so
got
there's,
different. No, they got melanin. They got different kind of melanin.
what
It's a
I'm
melanin
saying is
take away from.
black people has the melanin to create races.
Right. That's
And
called
that
That's called mitochondrial DNA. That's only found in the black woman. Right. If you don't do your
yeah.
own, they don't tell you that. You got to dig for that. You gotta find that knowledge. And white people, in terms of knowledge of what happened, they didn't give up. They understand something. Anything that blacks have in terms of knowledge, economic, social, or political progress, they marched for it. They fought for it every step of the way. And
Okay,
in
now
terms of those who you deem, hear me out.
what if I were to say what
Let me
if I
say.
were to say
Let me
they
say this
didn't
real.
even know that?
Didn't know what.
What if I were to say they didn't even know that?
Who's they?
Think about the time frame that we in. Like, okay, like maybe the white man probably did know that one race was here first. It was obvious the black man, and they didn't want to say, okay, the black man was here first. Maybe they didn't want to say that. But to know that melanin creates, you would need science for that. They didn't have science like that, bro.
Oh, Egypt did.
You need science for that.
Egypt did.
Oh,
That's
come
where they
on,
take all
man.
their cues from. See, you're not. You
Come
got
on,
some
man.
research to do, my man. You got a lot of
All
research
right,
to do.
so you mean to tell me that
Yo,
Egypt
Egyptians
had
were
syringes,
Egypt
and
was
they
doing
could take
heart surgery.
DNA out of things and put DNA in things. They didn't have that, bro. They didn't have science like we
I
have
miss
science.
I miss what you just said. What'd you say?
What so you mean to tell me that Egypt had syringes and shit, and they was able to extract DNA from things and put DNA in things? They didn't have science like that, bro.
Yo,
They
those
had
people were
history.
those people were doing heart surgery, man. They were able to tell a woman if she was gonna have a boy or a girl by pissing on a seed that would germinate a certain kind of way when she did it. And that would tell them if the baby was gonna be a boy or girl. There's no understand something. Those people had something upon them called glory, and that transcends the knowledge that comes from science.
I mean, they had sundials too, and we can't explain that either. But what like that the methods that they used back then was like it was what's the word I'm looking for? It was like for example observation. If nobody tells you how to plant something, or you observe that a seed go into the ground or drop out of something that it get covered by the dirt, the fucking the
Let me
water get. I mean, you observe. You know what I'm saying?
let me explain something to you about how knowledgeable these people were. And this is from not my mouth. This is from the mouth of God. He says, "Let us go down and confound their language, for if we do not, nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them." He never said that about white America because they're not operating in that kind of glory. This man was going to build a tower that reached into God's third heaven. Now, if you know how to do that, what the fuck is a syringe? And what the fuck is
Is
medical
God a
science?
racist?
That's beneath God. You don't have to. Why would he be a racist? He's the Almighty.
So,
And
but
in
he
terms,
had the chosen people,
but he has a chosen people. And guess
but
what?
he's not a racist.
In his physical, in terms of how he appears, the ancient Israelites, in all their depictions of the Most High God and how they pictured him in their minds and believed him to be in their hearts and minds was dark skinned and woolly haired. And if you dig deep enough to the most ancient rabbinical writings, they will describe to you a God that favored them in appearance. And that's why Adam, whose name meant man, was a dark skinned, woolly haired man, and all others come from that. And the proof that whites in a category of their own in terms of their brand of oppression and the lies that they tell against black people is the fact that they don't want you to know that. Now, if you don't agree with that, that's your right. But if you do some serious research, that's what you'll come to find. Yeah,
No patience.